Play clock at 5. Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler. To Henry. Quick snap. Breeze. Pass is incomplete. No flag for Tommy Lee Lewis.
Got him at the 40. It's Thomas at the 50. Skipper down 3 to the 30. To the 20. Thomas to the 10. Denver's going on the New England.
So the hits just keep on coming when it comes to off-season news because we got wide receivers being paid extravagant amounts of money to really not be that good at football. We got Tom Brady, unsurprisingly, at least if you're us, coming back to the league. But one thing here is surprising. We'll get to that in a moment. It looks like the Chargers are trying to become the favorites in the AFC with how their defense is looking and trying to get the most out of that rookie contract with Justin Herbert. And the Deshaun Watson trade market is officially heating on up. We're going to take a look at 3 of the teams that are out on him and 3 of the teams that are all the way in on him and our predictions of where he is going to end up. Thank you so much for tuning to what's already our Week 5 off-season breakdown. Of course, I'm your host, Ross Allen, joined alongside by the AK Alex Kropp. And Alex, I don't know about you, I'm still riding on my high with Russell Wilson. His profile picture is in blue and orange, and I'm still happy about that. But how are you feeling right now?
You know, I will have to say that I was in the Vail Beaver Creek area, drove through Denver a couple times to and from the airport last weekend, and, you know, around the city, you know, you feel the energy around the area. The Mile High vibe is you know, Denver is a cool city, and you were there for a game last year. You know the environment, you know the crowd.
Oh yeah,
it's really going.
Well, the stadium's nice. Everything else is homeless and weed. But you know, besides that point,
well, the thing is though, is like that Denver is one of the last stadiums that has a true home field advantage, just because of those elements there. So you
guys don't understand. Like, you don't feel it until you've been in the game. There, it gets loud.
Yeah, and especially having, you know, the stack a road game on top of dealing with the environment like that. And there's not many stadiums in the U.S. I mean, anywhere besides if you go down to the Mexico City or any of the weird games like that where the altitude is a factor. So coupling that in with Russell Wilson coming back there, bringing a lot of energy to that franchise, that offense has got every weapon now. We've already raved about Javonte over and over and over again. So, dude, ride that high for as long as you want. Tom Brady is going to rain on parades over and over again. That's just what that's what he does. It's what, you know, he deserves to do that. He's the GOAT for a reason. So Selection Sunday, no, don't worry about that. We'll just drop it on my own personal account that I'm coming back to Tampa Bay. No problem. Like nothing. So, that's just what he does. It's a GOAT move by a GOAT guy.
Yeah, Tom Brady really is something else. But we're going to get into that in just a moment. But just real quick, best way you can find everything is at thefourthandlong.com or at thefourthandlong.com/NFL. Catch us on Twitter, Instagram, or YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Rumble, anywhere you want to catch us. We are there. And you definitely don't want to miss the, even though they're from a couple weeks ago, it's still very relevant, especially considering, Alex, not going to lie, at least you have gone to good ones. I'm off to a pretty good start when it comes to offseason predictions. Shout out Tom Brady and Carson Wentz. So let's see if we can keep the train rolling today, right?
I also think that, you know, I know you reviewed it yourself, but I do just want to get some flowers for some of the preseason predictions and where we're at. You know, the TJ Watt Award. I do love that one because I was a year removed and I stuck to my guns 2 straight years. So that one, I just need my ego to be stroked a little bit, and I need some flowers for that one as well.
All right, here's what I can do for you. So, Alex, follow after me. You take your right hand, lift it up. And now you take it, put it behind your back.
There we go.
And then give yourself a little pat. There we go. Yeah.
I'm like a yoga instructor now. I appreciate it.
Man.
Well, Tom Brady being back, I think we both kind of alluded to this a lot when we were going over the news of the initial retirement. But here's the issue: is I really wanted the Niners thing to happen, and I don't think that door is closed yet. I really don't. And what the things that are not discussed right now are Bruce Arians had a lot of choice words when all of these shenanigans were going down. He was a little combative of Tom Brady. He was not bound.
Absolutely.
So he was not giving in to, the pressure of, if I come back, maybe the Niners is going to be an option. And, Tom Brady, that's clearly where there's smoke, there's fire there. I think there's a mutual, a mutual desire to be on that franchise moving forward. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Bruce Arians. Is he the coach there? If Tom Brady's there, if Bruce Arians is ingrained there, is Tom Brady asking for a trade?
Right, and that's a good point because apparently going back before the retirement, they were having a fallout of their own as well. Yeah. Like after 1 year, Bruce Arians is already kind of how do you manage after just one season to alienate the greatest quarterback of all time?
And especially after a Super Bowl you just won. Like how do you, after 1 year of not a horrible year, you were a possession away from winning the NFC Championship or going to the NFC Championship. Mm-hmm. And you now have this huge rift between the guy who's kind of held your franchise on their back for the last 2 years at 44 years old or whatever he is. So I just don't understand it at all, and it'll be interesting to see what happens moving forward.
Nothing like a little bit of controversy brewing in Tampa Bay. Is Tom Brady actually staying? Is John Lynch licking his lips right now looking at a trade? And is Kyle Shanahan possibly not moving on to Trey Lance yet? Oh man.
For you. What are Brady's contract details? I know he reworked it last year to get some more free agent money, but what does he have on the books for this season moving forward?
So right now it's just that 1 year extension he signed for last year. So he's on 1 year, and it looks like it's a $25 million contract extension. Shout out to Spot Track. So what I'm going through right here is that
that's dangerously close to Jimmy G's number for next year.
Ooh, and he has a $20 million cap hit. He has a $15 million dead cap. And it's a $8 million base salary, $8 million signing bonus. So that's a damn good contract for 1 year.
Yeah, very good. So,
but 25 on the books.
Have options.
They definitely do have options, and this could work out really well because you can even spice things up with a 3-team trade, and typically that's reserved for like the NBA. We might be a little spicy this offseason with a little bit of a QB carousel or picks carousel or however it wants to go between the Bucks, the Niners, and the Colts. With ultimately the Bucks getting compensation, the Colts getting Jimmy G, and the Niners getting the greatest quarterback of all time.
And there's also an interesting amount of teams this year that have a lot of high draft capital. You have the Eagles, you have the Dolphins have a lot of picks, and even the Jets have a lot of high draft picks as well. So there's a couple.
Don't forget the Rams.
Shut up. But there's a lot of teams with a lot of ammo and a lot of teams with a lot of motivation because the last 2 Super Bowls were won by kind of these quarterbacks for hire that came in and won Super Bowls. So that formula has been laid out. So I think you've already seen it. There's more teams that are aggressive enough to go out and try to go get the quarterback to be relevant. So a lot of ammo and a lot of potential for opportunity. We're in the middle of March now, and we've already seen a lot of movement.
Oh, draft season is going to make things that much better, too. I love being an NFL fan right now, but one thing I am not a fan of is the Broncos AFC West rivals beefing the hell out of their roster, especially the defense, because the Chargers are trying to just do everything they can to go all in right now on Justin Herbert. They recently added J.C. Jackson to the roster. They trade for Khalil Mack for pennies on the dollar. What are you doing, Chicago, you poverty franchise? So we have to take a look. Is this finally going to be enough to get them over the hump here? Because throw back like the last, I would say, 3 years, there's always been this preseason vibe with the Chargers. This year's their year, and then every year they've managed to mess it all up in the span of like maybe 6 weeks. So are we actually going to see them turn to contenders, and are they the best team in the AFC West now?
Here's what I was kind of looking up here as you were talking there and setting this up, but just looking at their updated roster and their
Yeah.
They're just on paper what they're bringing to the table, and offensive side, what you're getting on the table with a top 5 running back, in my opinion, Austin Eckler. You got Justin Herbert, can make any throw on the field. Keenan, Mike Williams, both locked up for next year. You have Josh Palmer, who came on strong last year. Jalen Guyton's a big play guy. You have a lot of options out there. The offensive line is not ideal, but it's not going to kill you like the Bengals.
Hey, Rashawn Slater's great. They're I don't know why he's blanking, but their center, fantastic.
There, you have Matt
Lindsay, yes.
Brian Bulaga there, guys that have been good in the past, but their defense is something to be worried about. West opponent. Let me let me lay this out for you.
Please don't.
Here's, I think, their weak point is their linebacking core. They have Kaiser White, Drew Tranquil, and that's kind of how they play. They play that 5-2-4 look, that 4-2-5 look sometimes, and those guys, at least they've been there for a while. They know the system, but their defensive line right now, they're rolling out on the edges. Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack, both guys at any point, at one point in their careers, they were at the most feared defensive end in the NFL, and that is a lot to say. And when you combine that, you saw what happens like that in the Rams defense when they have 2 elite pass rushers and what that can do to an offensive game plan. And also on the inside, you have guys like Linval Joseph and Jerry Tillery, who are established run stoppers that can stop a lot of what the outside guys, when they're rushing and going on the outside lanes, they can plug up those gaps. And what I think is the craziest part is that defensive backfield is disgusting right now.
It's gross. It's gross.
Nasir Adderley and Derwin James. When healthy, Derwin James is a top 5 safety in the league. He's Jamal Adams that can cover. He's one guy that can cover a George Kittle, that can go cover those bigger tight ends. And then when you have your corners like J.C. Jackson, incredible signing, top cornerback on the market. Asante Samuel Jr., who was coming on strong a lot at the end of last year. Chris Harris Jr., who is a Denver Broncos fan. That is
he can still ball.
That's in the backfield. And when you pair that with a pass rush that can get there with 4 guys every third passing play, it's gross what you can think about with this team.
Oh, man. This is really only something that historically an organization like the Chargers can mess up. So it's a problem because, on paper, they're fantastic. But also, you can remember that one season back in 2000s where they had the number 1 offense, number 1 defense, and then the 32nd ranked special teams unit, and then they didn't do anything with that team. So I think the biggest question, Alex, history might repeat itself. Let's take a look and see how the special teams performs this season, because honestly, that really might do it. But if they perform the way they should, the AFC West is going to be a bloodbath, because the Chiefs are still the Kansas City Chiefs. The Broncos reloading. Russell Wilson. That defense is only going to get better. They might even bring Von Miller back. They're making some moves on the offensive line. The Chargers, look at what they just did. The Raiders, not that bad of a team, and who knows what they can look like potentially with Josh McDaniels as head coach. This, honestly, if the playoffs would allow for it, if there were 3 wildcard teams, you might see an entire division making the playoffs. But the AFC West is probably going. I would not be surprised if they produce 3 playoff teams, just like the NFC West did last season.
And that was the talk of the town with the NFC West last year, with the Seahawks with Russell Wilson healthy.
Called it, by the way, with the Seahawks finishing in 4th.
Exactly, but it's a lot to take in as if you're an AFC West fan. I think if you're the Chiefs, you're no longer feeling comfortable. If you're feeling riding the high of the Broncos after getting Russell Wilson and thinking about what that offense can do paired with the defense and what they can still bring in. You talked about Von Miller and things like that, and now when you have the Chargers, just upgrading at every position, and the biggest thing about them has been health. So you have guys like Joey Bosa, like Khalil Mack, and like Derwin James, who have been known to not be able to play a full 16, 17 game season. So that's going to be the big thing. And Kenneth Murray is another one of those guys that has been, relied upon in the past, but injuries him up. And so I think if they have him available too to be flying around there on the defense, playing like that. That was Patrick Queens and um, who's the Patrick Queen and Devin White out in Tampa Bay. He kind of in that mold, that fast 245, 250 pound little undersized to really stop in the run game, but. They have a lot of options there, and you pair that defensive backfield with that pass rush, it just wrecks an offensive game plan, and it's going to be interesting to see what shakes out in the AFC West this year.
Absolutely. I was high, and now I have sobered up with the news of the Chargers, and the man with Brandon Staley probably. This is a positive for him, but also, if you want to take a look at, this is also probably the most pressure that he probably has the most pressure of any head coach in the league this season. At least, I would say top 5 at the least.
And he's also got that reputation right now of like, oh, he's the guy who tries to outsmart football and go for every fourth down, go for 2 all the time. And so, there's if he doesn't perform, there's going to be a lot of flack coming back on him. And then also, you mentioned the special teams, but I think a guy, if he does make the team, Andre Roberts is an established returner. He's been in the league for a long, long time. So having him back there, I think that assures a lot of that special teams burden. And Dustin Hopkins and Ty Long have been there for years, and those are veterans in the league. So as long as
it's a good point.
A nobody in there, a coaching staff, I can see Brandon Staley bringing in like a 28, 29-year-old guy, like, oh, this is the second coming. He's analytics driven, trying to outsmart the special teams unit, running fake field goals all the time, and that's how you really, ruin a season. But, again, they have everything on paper, but it'll come down to health. It'll come down to if Brandon Staley can control this offense, and it'll be interesting to see.
Absolutely. And then another thing that is interesting to see is where Deshaun Watson is going to be playing football next season, because I just got to be honest, like, putting aside, like, all the off-field stuff going on with him, we're not here to talk about off-field stuff. We're here to talk about the on-field stuff and the funny off-field stuff. I wouldn't consider this funny necessarily, so I'm going to stay away from that. But I will say one thing: I have missed seeing Deshaun Watson on the field. It's easy to forget how damn good of a quarterback this guy is. So I'm really hoping we get to see him on the field this season, whether it's the Houston Texans or someone else entirely. But let's take a look at the playing field of who still can grab him. There's been 3 teams taken off the board recently. You had the Steelers, because they signed Mitch Trubisky to not 1, but 2 years, the MVP going to Stiller Nation for all you Yinsers out there. You take a year off, you run for a touchdown preseason, and now you're a starting quarterback.
What was the number on
that? Man, that's good. Let's see. Oh, man. Mitch Trubisky, how much money are you going to be making with the season? I hope it's not a lot. I really hope it's. Because if it is, oh boy, Pittsburgh, let's see here. So it's 2 years. Come on, give me something numbers. You see something?
There's still definitely a team that's going to draft someone, I think, in the first or second round, like a Sam Howell or a Desmond Ridder or something like that. I don't think they're going to go, big game hunting, if you can call it that, with the Kenny Pickett's or Malik Willis or even Matt in the first round, late first round. But I think they're definitely a destination target for the Sam Howells and the Desmond Ridders of the world at the end of the mid-second.
Yeah, but you got that. So you go from Ben Roethlisberger to Mr. Trubisky. Congrats. And now the Colts have inquired to Houston about Deshaun Watson, but Houston's shot them down, unsurprisingly, because they are a divisional rival. That makes sense to me. Washington was in on Deshaun Watson, but then they traded for Carson Wentz. They're paying for his whole contract, and it wasn't even that good of a trade. We've been over that. It's not good. It's not. I totally called it. Like, I feel bad for my Washington fans, because my exact prediction came true, and I feel bad for you guys. But that's the case.
So it's ridiculous. Like, you can see it coming, and And Bill Simmons on his podcast, like, if you made this trade in the NBA with how bad Carson Wentz's contract is, there's no way the Colts are getting compensation back. Like, they're building this huge contract, and it's the Commanders are doing them a favor by taking his contract and giving him return. It doesn't make any sense to me, but there's still some really viable options for a guy that, not that long ago, 2020, Deshaun Watson led the league in passing yards, and there's a lot.
So what are we thinking? So there's two AFC South teams that stand out. I'd say the top three teams right now, you got the Saints, you got the Panthers, and you got the Seattle Seahawks. And if I'm just going to be honest, I am riding with the Seahawks just because that's a really good spot. They just reload with draft picks because it looks like Houston's going to be asking 4 first-round picks, which is...
Can you go over all the capital that all those teams have, and if they even have the options, or what's
So the Saints have decent capital. They have 0 cap space.
What are the deals on the table right now for each of these teams? So with the Seahawks, it's got to be at least so they have a 2022 and 23 from the Broncos, right?
Yep.
They'll probably have to throw in at least their 2022 and then maybe another second, third.
No, so they don't have those. So they just replaced them because of the Jamal Adams trade.
Okay, but they have a 2023 pick?
Yes.
Okay.
So they got that. So if you're the Seahawks, you probably have to shell out your 22, 23, 24, and 25.
But I think they can just go 22 of the Broncos this year, which is not a bad pick. 20 and then 20. They're 23 next year. Seattle 23 next year, and then sprinkle of second, fourth, fifth, whatever, and then you throw in any guys that would attract Houston. I don't know if that's a is that a guy like? Would you throw in
Drew Lock?
Would you throw in the Lockett, or would you? I mean, I guess you wouldn't want to throw in a receiver because you're trading.
Maybe 3 firsts and Lockett.
Yeah, but would you're probably going to want to keep the receivers if you're trading for a quarterback. So
yeah,
defensive side, do you even test the waters on throwing back like a Bobby Wagner or a?
Well, I guess you can't do that.
Like a Frank Clark or something like that.
Frank Clark could be a thing. If you're the Seahawks, you're probably doing a lot more picks than players. Yeah. When it comes down to the Panthers and Saints have more player capital to give.
So what the Panthers, it'll probably be something like J.C. Horn, I imagine, will be in it.
I could really see Christian McCaffrey being a part of that.
Yeah.
Being part of that trade deal.
Texans haven't had a running back in forever. Foster.
Maybe 3 firsts in Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, and then you sprinkle in JC,
some seconds, thirds,
and that's the workings of a deal right there. JC Horn missed all last year, so he's he's a first round pick, and that's kind of acting like a 4th first round pick if that's what they want. So
exactly. And who do you think ends up getting him though?
I honestly like the Panthers for him.
You
go outside the.
Wait, think he's better than Sam Darnold or something?
I think the Panthers, they have they have a good young defense. They were 2 years or a year ago that draft they had was every single defensive player was drafted, or every one of their draft picks was a defensive player. So they have the workings to bring, or they have the ingredients to go out and spend capital to go bring in a quarterback. So if you do throw in Christian McCaffrey, at least you got to see what Chuba Hubbard means or does as a lead back. It wasn't horrible, and when you have Deshaun Watson and you have a guy that has a dual threat like that, it kind of accentuates what Chuba Hubbard can do and what a running back can do. So I think that can work, and I think that's where my gut tells me he's going right now.
So are you saying that you trust Matt Rule to successively coach Deshaun Watson?
I don't think that frankly matters, to be honest with you, because I think the ingredients are, you have draft capital, you have the players that are attractive to a franchise that's been dead for a little bit since J.J. Watt left, and you have an owner that's aggressively wanting to go out and compete and go win a Super Bowl, and a franchise starving for that since they made that run with Cam and Julius Peppers and all them. So I don't really think it matters if Matt Rule can go out and coach him, because that's to be determined. And every single press conference is going to be, they get along great. It's going to be a great working relationship. So at this point, it doesn't matter.
Good point. And also, to be fair, he was successful under Bill O'Brien. So I think that tells you all you need to hear as a player. Oh my gosh, man. Yeah, but this is going to be a lot of fun. This is probably, with Tom Brady being back, this is probably the biggest headline for the remainder of the offseason. I think it gets dealt before draft night.
I hope so. I mean, it's been a year and a half, or it's been a year plus already. So, yeah, he already came out. I know you don't want to get in the political side of it, but he's not going to be federally charged. So there's at least some sort of clarity there. And
yep. I'm just glad we got clarity, first of all.
Just a little bit. Like, not a full clarity, a little bit. We still don't know what he's going to do.
Enough clarity to know that he's not going to jail and can play football.
Yeah.
That's really all we need as fans.
We think.
Yeah, imagine if I just jinxed the hell out of him.
I don't make any definitive comments right now.
Hey, I'm not associated with anything legally like that. I'm just saying for I'll contact my lawyers
Good idea.
Shit. I don't have a lawyer. It's not the funds, but speaking of funds, if you want,
are a esquire or expert in judiciary services, please contact Ross Allen.
Hey, or I'll put every legal choice when it comes to proceedings up to a Twitter poll.
I like that. That's a fair way to do it. Very.
Sorry. I like money. It will be up to a poll only by our Patreon supporters. So, of course, you become a member of our Patreon group for just $1 a month. That's over at patreon.com/4thdownlong. Ooh, boom, perfect.
Love it.
Because if you're going to screw over my life, I at least want a little bit of compensation for it. Oh, man, $1 really isn't that much.
Moving
on. But speaking about compensation that ended up biting someone in the rear end just one day later, ladies and gentlemen, not sure if I'm going to do it every week for the off season. It's a little bit more limited choosing, but when it comes to this, how can you not? The nay of the week goes to the bidder that bought Tom Brady's last touchdown ball for about $500,000 in auction. So either he just got screwed out of a lot of money, or he still knows something that we don't.
Yeah, it's really a tough pill to swallow if you're that guy right now. When you see, and it's not like he even had a ton of time to go off and have a party and show it off to his friends. It's like, this is his last touchdown. Because
do you think he even got the football by the time this happened?
What'd you say?
Do you think he even got the football by the time Brady came back?
Yeah, hope a transaction like that gets express shipped. But yeah, there's a chance he didn't even see this ball ever until this news even happened. This could be still in a box in transit right now.
Oh, no. Not condoning violence, but all I'm saying is if you have $500,000 to spend on the football, you probably got a little bit of money to spend on a metal bat. Who is that one ice skater? Tanya something?
Tanya Harding.
Yes. That's
a 50-1 underdog to get a Tanya Harding reference in this week's podcast, but you have just made one person on FanDuel or DraftKings very happy.
Is it Calvin Ridley?
Oh boy, you only bet 1,500.
Hey, 1,500, 50-1 odds. Those are pretty good.
Yeah. And also, that thing that happened with Cain Velasquez has happened like 5-10 minutes from my apartment in San Jose. I drive by on that road all the time. So, right in the old backyard, as they say.
Well, isn't that exciting?
Yeah, so I definitely did not see it, but it's a familiar road there that we saw on the highlights there.
That essentially makes you a celebrity. Congrats, Alex. What are you going to do with this fame?
I'm going to soak it in. I just don't want to let it get to my head or change and influence my takes because they.
Are we getting a biography soon?
Could be. I just need to find a writer that's willing to go down that road with me. But
Go down the road.
Brother,
Genius.
gotta have the puns will be very abundant throughout the entire biography.
I'm excited. I'm really excited for this one. It's gonna be a good time.
Your UFC fight.
Right? If you want to stay up to date on the doings of Alex's biography / autobiography, go ahead and subscribe right now. Go ahead, follow us on Instagram or Twitter. Spend way too much time on there. We get a bunch of content out to you guys between the whole NFL breakdowns going on throughout the offseason. We're going to be doing the shorter ones throughout the whole year. And then the occasional special. This is going to be a little longer on some kind of different topics. So just stay tuned for those. And if you are getting annoyed by the offseason, I have a solution. And that is Australian football, which is starting in just days, boy. So there we go. Shout out to my Aussies that listen. You guys are awesome. About like damn near half of you guys that listen to the show as a whole are Australian. So really appreciate you guys from the land down under, even though that Vegemite sucks. That I'm just going to say now. I know it's still a controversial topic down there, but I'm just putting my statement out there as well. So go check that out. We got UFC stuff coming out, card songs coming out this week as well. But Alex, how are we feeling with the return of Tom Brady?
The GOAT is back. That's all you need to know, and he was really never gone.
No. If you were smart, he never left. And that's unfortunate to every team besides the Broncos because Tom Brady is 2-4 against the Broncos in playoffs. Shout out Denver. We'll see you guys next week. And I'm sure there's going to be some more crazy stuff to talk about. See ya.